It's dinner time at our house, and we have had a slight change of plans. We are not doing enchiladas tonight. Instead, I'm going to be attempting to make a new recipe. My husband went to Texas recently and he had a phenomenal dinner. He sent me pictures. It looked so good. It was a chili relleno that had meat and cheese in it, and every Mexican place we've been to so far has said no, they couldn't recreate it. So we're going to try to do it tonight. It should be pretty easy to make, keto friendly, and we'll see how it goes. So let's get cooking. The first thing that I'm starting off by doing is I'm going to roast these peppers over just a flame. They're going to get like black and charred and, you know, all that. But if you don't have a gas stove, you could always use just like a cast iron skillet or a griddle of some sort and heat it just like on your electric stove. You could even do it in the oven and roast them, but this is going to help to get them tender as well as give them kind of that really good flavor. This is what it looks like, and you can see it's much more tender. I am going to put it into a Ziploc bag and let it finish steaming the rest of the way, but it's also going to allow me to take off like this outer part. These little pieces right here will come right off, and it'll be a delicious roasted flavored pepper to stuff with some meat and cheese. You definitely can't see it too well, but I have them all steamed and I have them in a Ziploc bag. I'm going to let them hang out in here for a few minutes while I'm getting the meat ready to stuff them with. I've said this many times before, and that is you do not have to buy the packages of taco meat seasoning, like the taco seasoning mixes and stuff. They have so many unnecessary ingredients in there, and they are full of carbs when you really look at it. Taco seasoning is one of the easiest things to make. I'll show you what I'm putting in this tonight, and I do switch it up. You can, it doesn't have to be an exact recipe. You can just kind of eyeball it. And I really want to take a second and say, I want to encourage y'all to start like just throw the stuff in there and just experiment in the kitchen. That's the way you're going to learn, because there aren't always going to be opportunities for, I'll speak for myself, for me to post a specific recipe. The best way to actually learn how to cook is just start experimenting. That's basically what's happening tonight. In my skillet, I have the ground meat and I have half of an onion. Tonight, what I'm seasoning it with is this Fiesta seasoning, and a little bit of paprika. As with many other things that I make, I do not have measurements for this. However, I just eyeball it, and when your soul speaks to you and says that's enough, that's when you stop. And just like that, you have perfectly seasoned taco meat. Easy peasy, clean ingredients. You don't need to buy the packaged stuff. And just like that, our dinner plans have changed again. We decided that we still wanted enchiladas. So we're going to have enchiladas and we're going to have chili rellenos. And I'm going to make some guacamole. It's just going to be like a huge fiesta happening tonight. I don't know when the cooking will end, but I'll still do stories. We're just going to roll with it. It's just going to be a lot of dots to go along with it. You can see the steam has been doing its job inside of this bag. I'm going to take them out and get all of the burnt parts off, but the flavor will still be on them. You can see some of the little charred bits are still on there, but for the most part, when you run your finger along here, it'll come right off. And so here are the remains, but then I'm going to cut them open, de-seed them, and stuff them. In my cast iron skillet, you can see that I've taken the peppers and I slit them up one side and I de-seeded them. I kind of mutilated these a little bit, but I think it'll be okay. I'm going to fill them with the meat and cheese next. Also made some queso. This recipe is listed in the highlights on my Instagram page. The only difference is tonight I used pepper jack instead of orange or yellow cheese. For the queso, I am starting off with about 1.5 cups of shredded cheese, and I'm using a mixture of that one and that one because it's what I had. 3 tablespoons of butter and 1/4 cup of half and half, and I'm going to microwave it for 30 seconds at a time, stirring in between, and then I'll judge and see if I need anything else. I just microwaved the queso for 30 seconds. You can see the butter is still not melted, but I'm going to stir it, and I'm gonna add in like a tablespoon of sour cream. This time I'm gonna mix it up. It's going back in the microwave for another 30 seconds, and I think I am going to add in some of the chorizo also, just so I have a little bit of meat in the queso. All right, another 30 seconds. Again, I'm trying to do this with one hand, y'all. The butter is melting, and you can see you got to stir it really well. And if I think it needs more half and half, I'll just add a splash. I'm gonna put it back in the microwave for another 30 seconds, and it should be good to go. I'm done. The queso is done. It's perfect. I've shared this before, but one awesome tip that I want to share again is when you're making enchiladas, roll or like coat your tortillas in this taco meat fat juice, because it's going to like totally take your enchiladas up to the next level. You just want to coat them and then set them aside. The hair had to come down. My head was, ooh, ain't nobody got time for a headache ponytail. But I want to just mention that whenever I make enchiladas, I don't roll them individually. I do more of an enchilada bake because it cuts down on the number of tortillas you're using, and in turn it's going to reduce the amount of carbs you're also consuming, and you have the same effect basically as eating, you know, an enchilada that's been rolled up in one entire tortilla. Here is the enchilada sauce that I'm using. I found it at Rouse's, and I put a couple of tablespoons underneath the tortillas. I cut one tortilla to fill the bottom in, and then just the little corners I improvised just so I wouldn't have an empty pan on the bottom. Next is cheese. So there's my cheese layer. I added that Zesty Ranch Taco Bell cheese. I found that at Winn-Dixie, so I had to get it. And then I just put in a little bit of that. Next up is the tortilla layer on top and some enchilada sauce. The top layer of the enchiladas are done. I did the same thing. I know it looks terrible, but once it's baked, it has the sauce and the cheese and everything else on top of it. Like, you're not even gonna know this is going on underneath. I ended up only using 2 and like 1/8 of the tortillas. So super low carb, and why not? You don't have to individually roll them out. I'm going to show you how to make guacamole in like 60 seconds. You have your avocados, you know, get the seed out, take the shell off, all that other stuff. All you'll need is apple cider vinegar, Trader Joe's chili lime seasoning, pepper, sour cream, and aroma tomato. Let's do it. You see there a plop of sour cream, a liberal amount of the chili lime seasoning, a sprinkle of pepper, and about a tablespoon of this. I'm going to use my handy dandy masher and mash it up.